I felt that Frida Giannini this season had really kind of found her stride, and I think it was the best collection she's done since she joined the house.
At Gucci this season, we've done a very simple, natural makeup, just beautifying, enhancement of what the girls already have. So you can kind of see each girl in all their glory. Eyebrows lightly groomed, small amount of blush just right on top of the cheeks, tiny fine eyeliner right next to the lashes curled, brown mascara, and then just lip balm, conditioned lips. It's all about the most perfect foundation.
Well, the look for Gucci is very strong and straightforward. Instead to do just the ponytail, we had the accessory, and the hair, they're going to be very shiny on the front too. It's all about shiny, you know, with the glass. So it's like it's going to be the real Gucci girl, that she has a lot of strength.
Well, for this collection, to me, was really important to work around the tailoring, around the cuts and the cutout, and all these kind of very important elements from tailoring and from ready-to-wear. So starting from the idea of the little black dress that was not only black, because you've seen so many variation and combination, and the idea of this very body conscious, as I said, something that is really powerful for a woman that is really confident and sexy and feminine. But at the same time, I really wanted to add these touches of details that were coming from the extreme sport, like trekking or parachute, because to me this was something that was really helpful in adding the dynamism in the collection and the modernity and contemporaneity.
Certainly all the athleticism that was at the runway at Gucci was super sexed up with fantastical leggings and the idea of a short and an interpretation of a skirt underneath a suit jacket. The anorak, which is an important trend for the season, covering dresses. And then having a little bit of a tribal influence, the way that Frida took the idea of beading with large, elongated chrome beads and the print of an ikat and giving a little bit of a new inspiration. Terrific collection, bright white, an important trend not only in the US but certainly here in Italy, and then morphing into great color palettes.
I loved all that white extreme sportswear, which seemed a little bit like a nod to the 2012 Olympics perhaps. But it was detailed with masses of silver hardware that gave it much more of a hard, almost rock and roll edge. And she did wonderful kill imprints. Some of them could have been from Uzbekistan or Turkmenistan. Others looked a bit more like an ikat print from Indonesia. And they were used for the tightest, shortest, most clinging dresses. I mean, I think they're about as tight as massage oil.
Accessory in this collection were very important. For the shoes, I chose to make these very graphic platform sandals, because the graphicism in this collection is very important, starting from the color palette and to the bold prints that we use, like the ikat print that was printed in jacquard, woven in leather, and so in so many. So I really needed to have something very graphic for the shoes, but at the same time very feminine and very strong. So that's why I decided to put on the runway some sandals, but also the summer boots, the booties with all the cutout, because to me it's very sexy and it's very strong.
I thought Gucci was outrageously sexy, wonderful, great, commercial. It kind of set the tone of half of the season. There are two schools of thought. There's the sexy wild girl and the romantic soft girl. So Gucci was definitely on the other side, the wild rock and roll chick. But it was great. I love the use of hardware. I thought it had a vibration that was really modern, not retro.
So many new materials and new techniques, like for example techno crepe de chine, or again like I don't know, a silk that was treated like chintz, or again mixed with the mesh coming from the sport, or carbon fiber, or special treatments on leather. And it was very funny to put all these things together. And then the harness was a very important element that was coming through all the collection from the first look to the evening. The evening, of course, was embellished with crystals to make it more bright and more special. But this idea of sporty attitude together with something like a suit with a pencil skirt or a suit, a jacket of a tuxedo with an open back and the harness in the back, I thought was an interesting way, an intriguing way to play with it.
It was so hard-edged and it had such attitude that I thought it was kind of the kick in the pants that Milan needed in many ways. I just thought that it was very much sort of the new Gucci. And, you know, I love the sort of extreme sports techno stuff. So she kind of had me with that, but I did think it had a really great attitude that kind of got you energized.
Another important thing for this collection to me was the dualism of something very innovative and very new, together with the whole noble tradition of Gucci, of the house. So that's why, for example, I wanted to rework and to redesign the bamboo bag that was originally born in the 40s, at the end of 40s, and now has a new life, has been back to life, and I don't know, with the new chains and the new shoulder strap and leather. And I thought it was interesting to revamp this shape because I think it's something so Gucci, so important for our house, and this is the perfect time to relaunch it.
Sophisticated and sexy without being trashy. You know, it was kind of more in line with what we saw right at the very beginning of the Gucci revival in a funny way. Kind of pretty perfect Gucci collection, I'd say. You know, enough balance of men sort of attributed day wear and sort of like lightweight rocker looks, you know, funky looks for those it girls of today. Kind of great.
I thought there were some really wonderful pieces that reminded me of a time when Gucci was that whole sexy, bodycon, embellished, optimistic brand, and I was really glad to see it, you know. I thought, yay! I loved all the sports stuff at the beginning, lots, you know, all that white, and all sort of that techno sort of element. I liked the way it moved away from the boho-ness of it, which I also did like, but I loved the sort of harder-edged, sort of more sporty edge, I'd say.
The future, I think, is something very important for a designer because you are always anticipating a trend in a way. And so it's important to work, even if I want to look at the tradition of the company, as I said, or the house. I think it's always very important also to use a new technique to look forward for the future and to create and propose something that is new and is looking forward for that. So that's why, for example, this patchwork of innovative materials, that's why, for example, the use of this bold white at the beginning of the show, and all these tones of grey, and this idea of the sporty detail that gives immediately to the collection a cutting edge.